Hello friends, are you eagerly waiting for the digital class today? Yes, you might be waiting for the English digital class today. You might have heard very interesting lessons in digital classes. Okay friends, let us continue the same. Now, what could be your guess of today's English class? I think it could be a reading session or a discourse session or a writing session. But to your surprise, it is neither a reading session nor a writing session. It is read and reflect session. The objectives of today's read and reflect session are: students shall be able to realize how to reflect upon different materials, how to answer questions on the text. It gives knowledge to read and answer materials other than the textbook. It gives confidence to students to answer analytical and inferential questions. It gives the learner scope to answer in an independent way. I hope it is very interesting since you read something other than the textbook. Now, the first tool of formative assessment, read and reflect. Now friends, let us listen to a conversation between two kids, Ishan and Manvi. Hey Manvi, you look so happy and gracious, what's the matter? Manvi, I got highest marks in read and reflect in the formative test. Ishan, what is read and reflect? Is it answering questions to the given story, Manvi? Is it reading and writing the story in your own words, Manvi? Is it reading comprehension? Manvi, no Ishan, really, you bother me more these days. Ishan, really Manvi, I want to know what is read and reflect. Now Manvi shows the photo shoot of read and reflect session. Now children, let's watch the video of read and reflect session. Now let's watch this video. It's a video related to read and reflect session. You see the teacher who is giving instructions to students regarding read and reflect. She is explaining how the process of read and reflect should go on in the class. Now the teacher is giving instructions to the students regarding the materials that are going to be given and how they have to reflect upon the given material. Now, the teacher is distributing the materials to the students, right. Now, the materials will be given to the students. Now, the teacher is distributing the materials. Look here, she is distributing language cards. The cards, as you know, are not same, and you see the teacher is randomly distributing the language cards. Each student is going to be given a different card. These language cards have different types of questions where the students have to reflect upon. Now you see the teacher is distributing story books. The story books are also of different varieties. You see there is a Panchatantra, there is a moral stories book, there is a book of the clever bat, there is a book of Arabian Nights, there is a book of German folk tales, There is a book of popular stories for children. Now you see, the teacher starts distributing newspaper articles. All the newspaper articles have been pasted on different kinds of drawing charts. Now you see, the teacher is distributing the newspaper articles once again randomly. One student got the newspaper article about robberies on train. One student got a newspaper article containing only a picture of a woman caught in flood waters. There is a newspaper article of a food wrapper which is pasted on a drawing chart. Now the distribution of the material is over. The teacher is now giving instructions of how to answer the questions which are given below the article. Now, this is the format of read and reflect. Now, you see the materials once again. Now, after the students reflected upon the materials, teacher called a student to reflect upon the material that is given. You see a student making an oral presentation. All the students listen to the student who is making the oral presentation. After the oral presentation of one student is over, the teacher is likely to call upon another student for the oral presentation who has reflected upon another material. Now, this is another article given by the teacher. Now, this student has reflected upon the questions given by the teacher about the newspaper article called robberies on train. You see the student making the oral presentation of the given article. You know friends, this oral presentation carries 5 marks out of 10 in the read and reflect for each formative test. Now, the teacher calls upon another student who reflected upon the language card. Now, the teacher called another student who reflected upon a story called The Clever Bat. Here the student is telling the story in his own words without looking into the book. The story is written by the student in his own words. You watch the children listening to the story. Now, this is another material given by the teacher to reflect upon a food wrapper called NutriChoice. Now, what are the materials the teacher used in read and reflect session? Now, you can see the materials used by the teacher. The teacher used various newspaper articles. You can see children, the newspapers are pasted on the drawing charts and they are followed by WH questions. Now, the articles are, they could be on fine arts, they could be on accidents, they could be on stories, they could be on important columns which the teacher feels that are important to the students. It could be an accident, it could be about flood waters. So, all these are the different newspapers articles that we see, that we come across in the newspapers daily. So, all these newspaper articles, various types of articles and columns are pasted on different drawing charts and it is followed by different types of questions. Now, you see what is the other kind of material the teacher used in the classroom. They are story books and language cards. Do you know what kind of stories generally or usually the teacher uses in the classroom. They could be interesting moral stories, they could be fables, or they could be short stories. The examples of these stories are Panchatantra, Arabian Nights, or different kinds of stories the teacher uses in the classroom. Now, the second row of materials, what you observe are the language cards. These language cards are very simple to use, and you might have read many a time during your leisure hours. These language cards are followed by different types of questions. Sometimes they could be multiple choice questions or writing the story in your own words, or sometimes matching the pictures. Other than these two kind of materials or three kinds of materials what the teacher used just now as storybooks, language cards and newspaper articles, teacher may also use food wrappers just like Lay's, chocolate wrappers or ice cream covers like this and so on. Teacher may also use some kind of pamphlets. She may also use advertisements where you find different celebrities in the advertisements and you may be very interested to answer them. And teacher may also use some kind of posters. These are the different kinds of materials that a teacher can use during read and reflect session. How many marks are usually awarded during read and reflect session? As you all know children, you also got marks in the previous academic years. There are 10 marks in total for read and reflect session. Out of the 10 marks, 5 marks are awarded for oral presentation and 5 marks are awarded for written presentation. And you all know children, many times you might have participated in your oral and written presentations. What would you do in these presentations? You generally answer questions given by the teacher and sometimes you narrate the story in your own words, or sometimes you retell the story which is given to you. Now, how many marks did your teacher give? Teacher might have given for oral presentation 5 marks and for written presentation 5 marks. Isn't it children? Yes, you say that it is right. Now, let us look at some questions related to newspaper articles. There were number of newspaper articles which were given to students in the classroom. You might have seen all these newspapers not only in the video session children, in also in your classroom. Now, let me tell you or let me cite some examples what your teacher has given. Let us have a review of those questions. What are the questions related to newspaper articles? Now, there was a newspaper article which was given to a student about robberies on train. What would you do if you were the passenger when the incident took place? The teacher is asking out of the text that such robberies happen on the train and you were one of the witness in the train, what would you do? What could be the answer children? You would call the police, you would help the passengers who are in risk, you would persuade and convince the passengers, or you would console the passengers. Some or the other way, you see that the passengers would not go panic, isn't it children? So, the answer what I kept before you, what answer I told before you all children is not a part of the text. It is out of your own opinion or it is your own answer. You are in that place, what would you do? So, here it is very interesting for you all, I believe it. It is because you write your own words, you imagine yourself in that situation and it is your own answer for which the teacher doesn't deduct the marks. She will give you the marks because it is your own opinion. Now, for such kind of questions, there is no definite answer. You will write your own answer and the teacher gives marks for your answer and you would be interested to write this answer. Is it not, friends? It is because you did not pick up the answer, you did not scan for the answer, you did not by heart the answer. You wrote the answer of your own. Naturally, it is very interesting. So, read and reflect session is one of the interesting sessions where you can pen the lines relevant to the question given. Now, let us look at another question. You come across such articles about robberies on trains frequently in newspapers. Is it not, children? Yes. What precautions you would take as a passenger in the train? I know your answer could be like this. I would carry a mobile wallet. I would keep the number of the relevant police station on my mobile. I would call the police immediately and I also take the risk of not carrying valuable articles when I travel on train. So, these could be possible answers. Still, friends, you can write out of your opinion and experience some other precautions what you feel could be. There was another article given to a student about a woman who was caught in flood waters. There were no lines below the picture, only a woman who was caught in flood waters was given. As a neighbor of that woman, imagine yourself how would you help that woman. See how the question is very interesting. The teacher is asking you to imagine yourself as one of the persons who really wants to help people who are caught in flood waters. Now, children, you may be thinking in various ways how you would help your neighbor who was caught in flood waters. Some could write, I would give a helping hand. Some could write, I would use some of the material, local material that is available to make a bridge and see that the woman crosses the bridge. Or some could write a different ways out of their experience how they could help women or people who are caught in flood waters to cross over. So, now children, you have ample opportunity or there are many opportunities where there is no fixed answer. You feel very interested to write, isn't it? Now, there is another newspaper article where a farmer has cultivated dates in a dry land. Do you know dates, children? Yes, you enjoy eating dates. What would you suggest the farmers in your village? You would suggest them to listen to various articles on agriculture on radio or watch some kind of programs related to agriculture on TV, or out of your experience you might suggest the friends, call your farmers or your neighbors as farmers to cultivate some fruits which can be grown in dry lands by giving them the knowledge of cultivation of fruits in dry lands. What other crops can be grown in dry lands? This was another question given by the teacher in the newspaper article. You can imagine some such kind of dry fruits which can be grown in dry lands if you do not know, or out of your knowledge, if you knew the answer, you can write the answer for that particular question. Now children, is it not very interesting to write your own answers in this read and reflect? Yes, the answer could be yes, because you are not writing any fixed answer or you are not borrowing the answer from a given material. There were some questions related to the content and there were also some questions which are out of the content, where you are able to write your own answer. You feel very independent to write your answer, isn't it children? Yes, that could be your answer. Now, there was another student who was given a newspaper article on fine arts. The student enjoyed reading the article because there were some WH questions that was also followed by, could you name some other fine arts? What are the fine arts you know? They could be singing, modern dance, classical dance, folk dance, traditional dance. They could be painting, they could be drawing, mime, mimicry, so on and so forth. Such kind of questions are very interesting to answer. And you all get full marks for such kind of answers. So, read and reflect session, as Manvi said, is very interesting. That is the reason why Manvi enjoyed read and reflect session. Now, let us look at some other questions. Why are fine arts promoted by government and other organizations? Imagine yourself to be a young artist. How happy you would feel if these fine arts are promoted. Yes, you will get the opportunity to perform a fine art in which you are perfect or in which you are interested. So, naturally, definitely this answer, obviously it might have given you more scope to answer such kind of questions. And why does government promote these fine arts? To encourage young artists. Now, if you are the in charge in some or the other way of fine arts in your school, in your mandal, in your village or in your district, or when you grow up, how would you promote these fine arts? Yeah, your answer could be, I would promote fine arts by organizing Kalakshetras, Kalajatras or any such kind of forums where fine arts could be promoted. It could be promoting fine arts in public, in the sense it could be at school level, or it could be in some kind of social clubs, or it could be like this, where government gives an open competition and we wish to participate. So, these could be a different kind of answers you could write for the given question, isn't it children? There was an advertisement which was given in the newspaper article. Out of my experience in my school, usually children show more interest to answer questions on advertisement. It is because you come across various celebrities. They take fun in enjoying looking at the celebrities, isn't it children? Yes. Now, moreover, you get very clear information. You only need to scan for the information, and that is very brief and clear in an advertisement. You have more time than answering the questions. So, people enjoy, or the students try to enjoy in answering questions to an advertisement. And moreover, these advertisements are colorful, which make students very interesting to answer the advertisements. In your experience, did you answer advertisement children? Yeah, you might have answered. What is a different kind of information you get from an advertisement? It could be value of the product, it could be the producer of the product, it could be the features of the product, it could be the new version of the product. So much of information you get from an advertisement. Now, the teacher gave one of the stories about the clever bat. In your opinion, why do you think the bat is clever in the given story? Like this, teacher may give you why the lion is foolish in the given story. Or teacher may give you rabbit being very small, it's very clever than the huge lion in the given story. Where you write different kinds of answers for these questions. So, read and reflect session gives you more scope for your independent thinking process. Now, if you are in the place of the king, would you do the same thing in the given story, or what would you do? You might have answered it as yes or no. What would you do is again left to you. In your opinion, will you leave the soldier, or will you leave the person who has made the mistake? Or would you tell him some ethics or morals to refine the person or to change the person? In your opinion, could you call it as a punishment, or do you want to change the person morally? So, all these are the different types of questions a teacher gives you during read and reflect session. I think friends, you might have enjoyed the read and reflect session. Thank you for joining the digital class. Thank you very much.
अस्सलाम वालेकुम अज़ीज़ तालिब इल्मों, कहिए कैसे हैं आप। डिजिटल लेसन्स देख रहे हैं ना बच्चों। इस ज़रीन मौके से फ़ायदा उठाइए और अपनी तालीम पर भरपूर तवज्जो दीजिए। आज हम जमात नहूम का सबक पढ़ने जा रहे हैं, जब करबला में इतरते अतहार लुट गई। बच्चों, जब करबला में इतरते अतहार लुट गई, ये मरसिया है जो कि उर्दू शायरी की एक अहम तरीन सिन्फ़ है। आइए सिन्फ़ मरसिया के ताल्लुक़ से जानकारी हासिल करते हैं। मरसिया उर्दू की एक ऐसी सिन्फ़ सुख़न है जिसमें मरने वाले की तारीफ़ व तौसीफ़ बयान की जाती है। आम तौर पर मैदान करबला में शहीद होने वाले हज़रत इमाम हुसैन रज़ी अल्लाह ताला अन्हु और आपके रुफ़क़ा पर मरसिया लिखे जाते हैं। इनके अलावा मरसिए शख्सी भी होते हैं। मिसाल के तौर पर महात्मा गांधी के क़त्ल पर मरसिया लिखा गया। मजाज ने लिखा है, हिंदू चला गया न मुसलमान चला गया, इंसान की तलाश में इंसान चला गया। तो बच्चों, मरसिया एक ऐसी सिन्फ़ सुख़न है जिसमें मरने वालों की तारीफ़ तौसीफ़ बयान की जाती है, लेकिन आम तौर पर शोहदाए करबला के ताल्लुक़ से ही लिखा जाता है। जैसे कि हज़रत इमाम हुसैन रज़ी अल्लाह ताला अन्हु की इस मारिका करबला में शहादत हुई और आपके साथ आपके रुफ़क़ा भी इसमें शहीद हुए। इसके अलावा भी शख्सी मरसिए लिखे गए हैं, जैसा कि यहाँ पर मजाज के लिखे हुए मरसिए की मिसाल पेश की गई, जो कि महात्मा गांधी के क़त्ल पर लिखा गया था। हिंदू चला गया न मुसलमान चला गया, इंसान की तलाश में इंसान चला गया। बच्चों, क़दीम उर्दू के क्लासिकी सरमाए में यानी क़दीम उर्दू शायरी में जो हमें मरसिए मिलते हैं, तकरीबन तमाम गज़ल की हैयत में मिलते हैं। असर हाजिर में मरसिया मुसद्दस की हैयत में लिखा जाता है। मीर अनीस और दबीर अज़ीम मरसिया गो शायर हैं। बच्चों, मरसिए गज़ल की हैयत में लिखे जाते हैं और मुसद्दस की हैयत में। हैयत यानी कि शक्ल, साख्त और उसका फॉर्म। تو یہاں پر یہ جو مرثیہ ہم پڑھنے جا رہے ہیں وہ مسدس کی حیت میں ہے، یعنی مسدس یعنی جس کے ہر بند میں 6 مصرے ہوتے ہیں، اسے ہم مسدس کہتے ہیں۔ اور جو مرثیہ ہم پڑھنے جا رہے ہیں، جب کربلا میں عطرت اطہار لٹ گئی، اسے مرزا سلامت علی دبیر نے لکھا ہے، اور اس مرثیے کو انہوں نے مسدس کی شکل میں لکھا ہے، یعنی جس کے بند میں 6 مصرے ہوتے ہیں۔ تو شاعر کے تعارف سے پہلے بچوں آئیے اس سبق کا مرکزی خیال کیا ہے اس پر ایک نظر ڈال لیتے ہیں۔ اس مرثیے میں حضرت امام حسین رضی اللہ تعالیٰ عنہ کی شہادت کے علاوہ ان کے عزیز و اقارب کی شہادت اور خواتین کے غم کی عکاسی کی گئی ہے۔ عابد بیمار حضرت زین العابدین کی بے بسی کی ترجمانی کی گئی ہے، اور ان پر ہونے والے مظالم کو اجاگر کرتے ہوئے یہ بتلایا گیا ہے کہ حق و باطل کی کشمکش میں حق پرست کسی بھی قیمت پر باطل کے آگے سر نہیں جھکاتے، چاہے انہیں اپنا سر کٹانا ہی کیوں نہ پڑ جائے۔ بچوں، حضرت امام حسین رضی اللہ تعالیٰ عنہ جو کہ رسول اللہ صلی اللہ علیہ وسلم کے پیارے نواسے تھے، آپ نے حق کی رضا کے لیے اپنی جان قربان کر دی، شہید ہو گئے، اور آپ کے ساتھ اس شہادت میں عزیز و اقارب بھی شامل تھے۔ جیسا کہ مولانا محمد علی جوہر نے کیا خوب کہا ہے، قتل حسین اصل میں مرگ یزید ہے، اسلام زندہ ہوتا ہے ہر کربلا کے بعد۔ بچوں، سبق کا مرکزی خیال ابھی آپ نے دیکھا، جیسا کہ ابھی میں نے آپ کو بتایا کہ اس مرثیے کو مرزا سلامت علی دبیر نے لکھا ہے، تو آئیے شاعر کے تعلق سے جانکاری حاصل کرتے ہیں۔ مرزا سلامت علی دبیر 29 اگست 1803 عیسوی کو دہلی میں پیدا ہوئے۔ والد کا نام مرزا غلام حسین تھا۔ ابتدائی تعلیم لکھنؤ میں ہوئی۔ دبیر 12 سال کی عمر ہی سے شعر گوئی کی طرف مائل ہوئے، اور 12 سال کی عمر سے شعر گوئی یعنی شاعری کرنے لگے، اور آپ کے استاد میر ضمیر تھے، جس سے آپ اپنے کلام پر